nice clean cut all the way across the top of the section. So again, our elevation is going to be straight up, vertical, straight towards the ceiling. We're going to just take that entire section as a condensed section. We're not incredibly concerned with high precision at this point because we just want to get more of a sense of what these three elevations do and how they distribute weight top to bottom. So we get that whole section. If you don't have big monkey hands like I do, it's fine for you to go through and subsection this into slightly smaller pieces, just so it's a little easier to handle. But I got big old paws, so I'm just going to grab the whole thing. So we're going to take it fairly short so that we can definitely see the result, and we're just going to cut blunt across that top with just a nice horizontal cutting line, not following the head shape, just very flat with the floor. Again, this is something very typical that we do as a hairdresser, so we tried to choose three things that we do commonly within hairdressing to make the comparison. So that's going to be your first area, and that's going to be that back right segment. The next one is going to be the center. So as you take out your clips, I almost forgot, make sure you clip off the hair that you just cut. You want to do that so that you don't pick some pieces up and include it into the next section. The next section, the center section, now we're going to do another very typical thing that we do, which is follow the natural head shape. We'll use the length that we cut at the top on the first section as our beginning length, but everything else is going to be disconnected, of course, because it's not going to match the elevation of the previously cut section. So we'll take the section clip out. We're using the dry sectioning clips that we have, and mainly just so that they don't create a big old crease in the hair. So this next section, again, we're going to work more 90 degrees to the head shape. And we'll take just a tiny little piece at the very top from that previous section. You can see that right there. We'll include that into the top of the next section. This might be a little unorthodox for you to start the layer from the top, but do not worry. Again, we're looking for the effect, not necessarily trying to perfect our technique right now. So you can see the elevation is at 90 degrees to the actual shape of the head, and our cutting line will also be 90 degrees to the shape of the head. So we're following that natural curvature of the head. Think about this just like the 90-degree state board haircut that you all probably have to do to pass your state board test. So just be cautious to continue to work very parallel to the head shape with the elevation and cut to that natural head shape. As you work lower and lower, if we start to cut down into the actual perimeter, no big deal. That's permissible. And again, mainly just because we're looking to have that nice comparison of what happens between the three different types of elevation. We're pretty much connecting right to the perimeter, so good guess, Andrew. Nice work. We'll just check through that real quick, make sure we're nice and balanced, top to bottom. That looks great to me, so we'll leave it. Take our clip and place it into that section one more time to hold it out of the way. Now the third section, this back left section, this one's a little funny. But it's something that, again, we do very often in layering hair. So the first one we did what we like to call 90 degrees vertical, which is kind of straight up towards the ceiling. On this third section, the final section, we are going to elevate to something that we call 90 degrees horizontal. And we do this a lot in the salon thinking, okay, we're layering the hair. We take all the hair, we hold it parallel with the floor, and we cut a straight line. In the actual guide, just because that way we can always cut back into the guide just like this is something really good to notice is that very often in the salon, one of the questions that we get asked is, why do I struggle with getting weight at the top of my layers that I seem to have to texturize out of the haircut later? Most often, if we watch someone cut layers that are getting heavier at the top, it's usually due to the fact that as they get to the top portion of the haircut, they're holding that section at a really good to see because it tells you two things. Number one, everything's being over-directed just to the center of the section. It's a fairly wide section, but again, we're not super worried about the over-direction factor with this particular practice. We're more looking to understand what elevation and even our finger angle does, because the finger angle is changing in each of these shapes as well. Not a weight line to this. So this was that section we did it all at 90 degrees to the head shape. And in fact, if you look at this top to bottom, and let's look at it even from kind of a profile view, which was the 90 degrees vertical. So as we comb that down, what we're going to notice is that you're probably not going to see a big start and finish point because distribution of weight top to bottom. So let's take all three out. And now, just especially if you've worked on this at home, mannequin head, just kind of comb through each section by section, and notice how different that falls. They have the ability to add some fullness into the hair without sacrificing the density in the perimeter. So let's go with the opposite direction. Let's say we have someone that has very thick hair or hair that likes to expand a lot. If they don't want the hair to be as full, they don't want a ton of volume at the top, but they more complain that they kind of have that triangle head, right? Where it's kind of flat at top, and then it comes out and it gets really full at the bottom. Which of these three, be it high elevation, low elevation, or following the head, do you think might benefit that type of guest most? We would tend to say more of the lower elevation. You could potentially do the 90 degree as well, because that's going to distribute the weight more evenly top to bottom. That might be good if you do still want a little bit of a shorter layer to the top so that they have a little bit of bounce through the top. But think about it this way, especially on a curly or coarse-haired guest, this top wants to kind of pick itself up on its own. So if we leave a little bit of weight to it, it'll distribute things more evenly, and then it takes more weight away from that perimeter and through the center of the overall shape. So it really affects that overall silhouette by collapsing in that area that's usually very wide, but it also leaves a little weight up here to resist the tendency of that type of hair to really kind of puff up and become a little too full. Now, of course, 90 degrees is a great elevation because it gives us a really great baseline to work from for a lot of different textures, a lot of different haircuts. Just gives us a nice even balance, and we can also combine these in different ways. Maybe it's starting 90 degrees, but then you leave your elevation a little bit more flat with the floor so that it doesn't tuck in as much at the bottom. There's lots of ways you can modify these. It's not even that these three things are the only things that we can do in layering, because we can really work between those different elevations in so many ways. Even in between the high elevation and the low elevation, this is a very viable place to cut hair. And we would challenge you to, again, work with the mannequin head and try multiple different positions, and also consider what does the finger angle do to the overall shape as well. So we hope that really helps to take away some of the mystery behind what elevation to choose to really give your guest what they need behind the chair. Thinking about this in advance and thinking about how it's going to affect the silhouette and the density of the hair is so key to your end result.